Nice to see it. It almost brings a tear to your eye. Jalen Brunson and Luka Doncic still boys to this day.
Jokic is playing.
Remember Jalen Brunson, that incredibly awkward podcast with Mark Cuban?
Absolutely absurd. His numbers are crazy, right? They're not seeded where they were like last year, right? Where were they last year?
Yeah. They're
not seeded where they were last year, and people are still talking about him like being MVP, right? Individually, he deserves it. But when Luka was averaging damn near a triple-double, but their seed wasn't where people wanted it to be, they were like, oh, he shouldn't get an MVP because of seeding. But obviously, like, Shai's obviously getting up there. Like, he's closing in as like the number one guy right now. I'm just like, why do certain narratives work for some of the people? And Jokic is playing.
Yeah, I mean, this is the frustrating thing. I will go to the grave saying that Luka got so robbed of MVP last year. And I think history will look back at that and say, damn, Luka averaged a 34-point triple-double damn near. His team won 50 games. They ended up going to the finals that year. Obviously, you can't know that when you vote for the MVP, but they ended up going to the finals. Luka won Western Conference Finals MVP. 34-9-9. He didn't win that year? Like, what? But unfortunately, he didn't have the glorp. And I'm telling you guys right now, history, we're going to look back at this time differently because there's going to be more advanced metrics and the way that certain stats are weighted for certain positions and stuff like that. The advanced metrics we use now will be a thing of the past in the future. They will be. Thing of the past. Think about the way PER was once used in debates, and it's widely accepted now that PER is a garbage trash can stat. There are certain stats that, weigh assists heavily for certain positions, and I think, that feels like the product of a bygone era. Like, I kind of get where you're coming from with some of these advanced stats that, hey, having a center, and I'm not just doing this shit on Jokic, by the way, at all, but hey, having a center who is your playmaking hub and can average 10 plus assists or whatever is really important, because then that means you can have a bunch of other playmakers. Like, I get all of that. But basketball is so positionless now. But here's the thing, though, and a reason why I haven't dug too deep into any MVP stuff or how the media is treating MVP stuff. It does change year to year. Yes, the goalpost move. The goalposts move every year. It's a different year every year. It's not, the narratives change every single year because you're not competing with the past MVPs. You're competing with your peers that season. I know it's frustrating and stuff like that, but it's Shai's to lose at this point. It is Shai's to lose. They move it for Jokic every year. If we want to be mad about Luka not winning MVP, the person we have to be mad at is Joel Embiid. That's just the truth. Okay? Not saying Embiid didn't deserve his MVP when he got it, but let's call a spade. That year was very much we kind of got to give it to Embiid year. And the Nuggets went on to win the NBA Finals that year. Jokic NBA Finals MVP. The narrative, it felt like the moment the ball tipped off on opening night was Jokic Jokic probably should have got 3 in a row. And that was kind of that. No, Shai's cruising. I mean, knock on wood. So I don't know what would have to happen for Shai to not win MVP at this point. It's stupid to say this in January because I think at some point in November I was like, I don't know how Jokic loses it. But I mean, Shai, they're going to be a mid-60 win team probably in the Western Conference, man. That is crazy. And it isn't like, yes, their team is uber talented, man. They are uber talented. And they're going to be even more talented when Chet comes back. But look at the numbers. Shai is the reason they are who they are. Straight up. Shai is the reason that team is who it is. They are like absurdly better offensively when he's on the court. They're nowhere near top 10 offense when he's off the floor. So it's Shai's this year for sure. Luka will get one. I feel confident in that. Luka will get one. It's just a matter of when. He's 25, guys. He's 25. Luka's going to get an MVP at some point. Yeah, Shai is winning. Shai winning before Luka is fucking absurd. I mean, how though? Like, I get where you're coming from. Luka probably should have won it last year, but this year it's not really up for debate much. Like, if Luka didn't hurt his calf and the Mavs were on a roll right now, Luka would be in the argument. I find it funny that when the Hoop Collective did their MVP poll, and they talked about it on their podcast, of course, Luka ended up getting hurt, but they were like, I forgot who it was. One of them was like, no, it's a 3-horse race, basically. Jokic, Shai, and Giannis. Like, Luka doesn't have a chance to get in. Giannis is out of that shit. The Bucks are sad, okay? The Bucks are sad. I watched that game against the Knicks yesterday. The Knicks pummeled the Bucks. They are sad. They are a sad fucking basketball team, okay? Now, it's not Giannis's fault. You can't have an MVP winner on that team. Full stop. That team is sad, okay? That team is sad. What does it say about the league if Luka never wins MVP? The league's very talented. I mean, I don't know. Kobe won one MVP. Okay? One. And that was like... Kobe might have gotten robbed, yes, but... kind of similar situations, right? Nash was like this advanced stat nerd darling. Kobe was hated and also faced the same media BS like Luka. He can't lead. He's selfish. I mean, I want to walk back what I just said. Jokic is much better than Steve Nash, and that's not shitting on Steve Nash. But Jokic, I don't like. Part of the reason why I don't like doing this is that you inevitably have to put somebody down to prop someone up. Like, if you're making an MVP argument, you have to put down the other MVP candidates. Like, you're comparing them directly. And Jokic is incredible. I mean, he's awesome. He's one of the greatest players in the history of the sport. I do think Luka should have won it last year. I do. I made a whole 40-minute video about it. Just thought what he did was incredible. And also, I thought a lot of media narratives were completely and totally unfair and wrong. One of the big prevailing narratives I saw was that Luka had a slow start to the season, which was so untrue. Statistically, he was better at the start of the season than he was at the end. Put Jokic on OKC and they're undefeated. They'd be really fucking good. Like you're saying, replace Jokic with SGA? Or replace SGA with Jokic? The dumbest narrative was Luka making his teammates worse. Luka got punished for his team being one of the most injured teams in the league over the first 3 to 4 months of the season. And instead of doing a little bit of research and deep diving and celebrating the fact that Luka was averaging numbers that we've never seen historically. I forget the numbers off the top of my head, but in the December-January stretch, Luka had a 30-game stretch where his averages were so insane that nobody had averaged it over a 20-game stretch ever in NBA history. He did it over a 30-game stretch. And instead of celebrating like, man, I know the Mavs record wasn't great, but the fact that they were even close to 500 or the fact that they didn't have like a 10-game below 500 record was because Luka was playing out of his fucking mind. And then the Mavs started winning games. And they made the finals. I don't get it. I didn't understand it, man. It did feel unfair last year. I'm not going to lie. The reaction to the 73-point game was one of the crazier things I've seen in quite some time. One of the crazier things. That was embarrassing. That was embarrassing for media members. That was embarrassing for the league. That was embarrassing for broadcasting companies. What an embarrassment that was. That's some of the most embarrassing sports coverage I've seen in quite some time. 73 points, fourth most ever in the history of an NBA game. By game score. Wasn't that the second best game of all time by game score? Second best game ever. By a stat that I don't really understand and I don't know about. But in the huge database of this stat, second greatest we've ever seen. What's number one? Wilt or Kobe? No, I think it was a Jordan game. I think it was one of Jordan's crazy scoring games. Right? I don't think it was I don't think it was Kobe's. Yeah, number one is MJ. I forgot which game it was, though. Go listen to Jason Gallagher podcast. Media voters have told him that certain voters did not vote for who they thought was the actual MVPs, and many voters straight up said they don't like Luka. I mean, you had like Windhorse. I mean, you're in the NBA Finals. And I honestly, I partially agreed with what Wendy had to say. I feel like it sounds better coming from a more local media guy to be like, hey, the Mavs are in the fucking finals. Life is good. Things are great. Like, it's great they got here. This is a great stepping stone for a 25-year-old superstar. But the game 3 against the Celtics, yeah, you got to reel it in, Luka. You got to reel it in. You can't have that. You know, that can't happen in a finals game. Learning moment, stepping stone moment. But Wendy just is like, no, I'm going to go on ESPN and just shit all over him for the next 30 minutes. I don't know, dude. Last year, I did believe the media was like on this weird anti-Luka thing. And I think part of it was the fact that they wanted Ant to be the guy. I mean, that wasn't a secret. They wanted Anthony Edwards to be the guy. For good reason. He's funny, charismatic. He's very exciting to watch play. He's also very good. And yeah, Luka did him dirty. Luka did him disgusting. Luka is hated because lazy, stupid Americans want to hate him for not working hard enough. See, I honestly, I don't buy into that at all. Jokic, like we talk about Jokic like he's a media darling because he is. I mean, 3 MVPs in the last 4 years. Jokic is a large, compared to other NBA players, chunky Serbian guy who barely talks. I don't think it's like some xenophobic thing. I really don't. Maybe, I mean, there's obviously going to be some people that's the case. Look, and here's the other thing too. You got to call a spade and be honest. The media loved Luka early in his career. They fucking loved him. I remember vividly. Other fan bases hated the way the media talked about Luka. They hated how he was front and center all the time. They called him the golden child. This is a real thing. This is always the cycle with these guys. The young players that burst onto the scene quickly, the league pushes them because, of course, there's these young superstars that if you're good when you're 20 years old, if you're a top 5 player when you're 20 years old, you're going to be one of the faces of the league for the next 15 years. Like, of course, we're going to hype the fuck out of you. And then immediately, you get that 1 to 2 year grace period, and then it's over. Then it's like, all right, now what? Anthony Edwards is experiencing that right now. I'm telling you. The shifts with Anthony Edwards, it's happening. He's experiencing that right now. Wemby is going to experience that. The other thing is Jokic didn't have to worry about that because he was a slow burn. Jokic was a slow burn. Shai's kind of a slow burn, although Shai was incredible, but he was just hurt and the Thunder weren't good. Honestly, Tatum was kind of similar as well. Like, remember the Celtics, Tatum's rookie year took the Cavs to 7 games. And everyone's like, oh shit, this Jason Tatum guys is incredible. And then he ended up winning last year. And that didn't even fix Tatum's narratives. Tatum won the NBA Finals last year. Not winning the Finals MVP definitely hurt a little bit. But not winning, but winning the NBA Finals couldn't even fix like the media burnout. The burnout that we went through with Tatum. It's not just like, feel like they talked about Wemby more coming into the league. Tatum won a finals and then focus was immediately on him being benched on Team USA. Yeah, I mean, Luka was pushed so heavily by the media. They loved him. They did. And it's the cycle with superstars. They chew you up and then they spit you out. And now it's up to Luka to win. He probably, I don't know. He can win an MVP. He can. I don't think it's over. I don't think the media hates him that much. Yeah, the Bill Simmons one is insane. Bill Simmons loved him. I mean, he was in love with Luka. He fawned over him. And to be fair, he still talks about Luka fairly highly. But yeah. Bill Simmons is a great example. I remember it was like that with T-Mac. They loved him. Then suddenly he doesn't practice. He's lazy. He's hard to coach. It's always a cycle. I think deep down that's what it is. Like if I had to psychoanalyze Bill Simmons, I think it's this thing eating away at him that he knows Tatum will never be as good as Luka. Like he just won't be. They're not in the same tier. They just aren't. Okay. Part of the issue is the Mavs media too. People don't defend him. For example, the defense thing. Luka has always had a better DPBM than Tatum, for example. But even Dallas media disrespects his defense. I don't think that has anywhere near as much to do with it as people like to think. To be honest with you, I don't think it has really anything to do with it. Yeah, Dirk was very similar. Like it's funny thinking about Dirk's career now and the way he's perceived. Uber respected player. Did I just get a Shams notification? Uber respected player. Legendary. Everyone loves him. Everyone loves that finals run. Like incredible. How can you not love Dirk? Yeah, he got shit on all the fucking time before that 2011 run. Shit on all the time. He was the prototypical soft Euro. That is the way he was discussed. There's a good Rusty Buckets video on how Dirk saved his legacy. How do you think people will view Luka's career at the end? Rose-colored glasses? Well, I mean, we still got a long ways to go, hopefully. I never hate on Bill Simmons, best sports personality on YouTube by 1,000 miles. Bro, I love Bill Simmons. I do. Do I agree with some of his takes? No. I love him. I think he's probably the greatest to ever do it. Honest to God. He's probably the greatest sports podcaster to ever live. Because you'd sound like an insane person if you tried to push Luka being better than Tatum on defense. Yeah, I mean, look, defensive stats stink. Like, there's no good ones. They don't really exist. That's why I really, whenever I talk about players or anything like that, I really try to avoid any defensive numbers, really, outside of maybe on-off. Like, if the defense is 10 points better when you're on the court versus when you're off, all right. And if you're like a big, for example, rim protection numbers and stuff like that, you can take away a good amount by that. But like the catch-all defensive metrics stink. They do. They're not good. They're not good measures of good defenders. It's because it's hard. It's impossible. It's impossible to encompass all of defense into one catch-all metric. There's too much going on. There's too many variables. Has any player won the MVP mostly due to their defense? You have to be a good offensive player. To win MVP. Even like Tim Duncan, 25 points per game, his MVP seasons. Luka has always been a better defender than Tatum. I mean, guys, honest to God, guys, if you actually think that, I feel like I can't have a conversation with you. Like we're not arguing about the similar things. Like our the way that we view things are so opposed. Like I can't even do it. Luka is a better player than Jason Tatum through and through. I don't even want to debate that. Like Luka is so much better offensively than Tatum. Seriously, so much better. And regardless of what people say, when it comes to superstars, I want offense does matter more than defense. Not to say defense doesn't matter at all. But Tatum is better defensively than Luka. I mean, I don't even understand why debating that. Like, why even debate that? You don't even need to debate that if you want to do a Tatum versus Luka debate. The debate is this guy averaged a 34-point triple-double on high efficiency. One of the best playmakers we've seen in decades. That's it. Tatum's not that. God bless him. Tatum's a relatively inefficient offensive player. Not a great pull-up shooter. Nowhere near the playmaker that Luka is, although Tatum is a good playmaker. And that's the end of that. I'd rather have all of the things you just used to describe Luka. I'm not trying to say Luka's a terrible defender. He's not like. What are you even arguing? If you're arguing that Luka's a better defender than Tatum, nobody's going to take you seriously. Nobody's going to take you seriously. Same thing of like if somebody tried to say, well, Tatum's playmaking, I'm not taking that person seriously. Yes, being worse than like Tatum was guarding Lively in the finals. Like we just saw it. We literally just saw that happen. Luka's the only 6'7", 250 player defending guards, and then he's elite at guarding fives. Luka is better at guarding guards and centers than Tatum. I mean, dude. What is this based off of? We gotta elite. We have to be careful with our elite usage. Luka would lock down Lively. That's an exaggeration, but Luka is good at guarding up and down when he wants to. No, yeah, Luka's Luka's defensive things, like obviously quick step, quick twitch guards are going to give Luka problems. Yeah, of course. It's not, those guys give anybody problems. But that's not Luka's strength defensively. He's a smart player. He is good at guarding those more sort of isolation, slower, patient, methodical players. He's big. He's strong. So he is good at guarding post-ups, very similar to Harden. Mike Hawk, 26 months. This is why playback chat is better. Luka's problems defensively are being locked in, getting back in on transition, rotating when you need to rotate. That's the reality. Luka has freakishly long arms. Yeah, he does have a 7'2" wingspan. Luka also can't hedge and recover. Yeah, it's all of the help stuff and rotating stuff. That's the concern. And that can get exploited by certain teams. Can we move on first? Luka versus Tatum? Yeah, that's a good place to end it off at. I think the wildest thing to me is not only did Luka not win MVP or even get any serious consideration, he wasn't even second. That is the crazy shit. He didn't even finish second.